I stared at the medical bill in my trembling hands. $175,000 for the emergency surgery I needed to save my life. My residence salary barely covered rent and student loans, let alone a procedure this expensive. "Mom, please," I said into the phone, trying to keep my voice steady. "The insurance won't cover it because it's experimental. Without this surgery—" "Emily, we've been through this," she cut me off. "Your father and I just paid Andrew's country club membership dues. It's $50,000 a year, and you know how important networking is for his real estate career." I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. My brother's golf games were worth more than my life, apparently. "But I could die without this surgery," I whispered. "The tumor is growing faster than they expected." "Don't be dramatic," Mom sighed. "There must be some standard treatment the insurance will cover. Besides, Andrew needs this membership. The Clayton deal alone could make him millions." The Clayton deal. My brother's latest get-rich-quick scheme, selling luxury condos to golf club members. The same brother who drove a Porsche while I took the bus to my hospital shifts. The golden child who could do no wrong, even when he'd lost our parents' retirement savings in his last failed venture. "Your brother has real potential," Dad's voice came on the line. "This club membership is an investment in his future. You chose to be a doctor. You knew it would be expensive. Yes, I'd chosen medicine. Chosen to help people, to save lives, to make a difference. And now, at 29, I was a rising star in oncology at Metropolitan Hospital, specializing in the same rare cancer that was now threatening my own life. "I'm not asking for a handout," I said. "Just a loan. Once I'm through my residency—" "Emily," Mom interrupted sharply, "we've already extended ourselves for Andrew's membership. The timing just isn't right. Maybe next year." "Next year." The oncologist's words echoed in my head. "Without this surgery, you might not have 6 months." I hung up and looked around my tiny apartment at the medical textbooks and research papers scattered across my desk. On top of the pile sat the letter that had arrived yesterday, an offer to join a prestigious oncology research program. An offer I might not live to accept. My phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. "Thanks for not asking Mom and Dad for that golf membership money. The networking here is incredible. Just sold 2 penthouses." I threw my phone across the room. Dr. Sarah Chin, my mentor and head of oncology, found me crying in the hospital's empty break room that night. "Emily? What's wrong?" I told her everything. The diagnosis, the experimental treatment, my parents' refusal to help. By the end, her normally calm expression had turned to steel. "Let me get this straight," she said quietly. "Your parents won't help with life-saving surgery because they paid for your brother's golf membership." I nodded miserably. "Well then," she straightened her white coat, "it's time for Plan B." "What's Plan B?" "You know I'm retiring next year," she said. "The board is looking for my replacement as chief of oncology." I blinked at her through my tears. "But I'm just a resident. A resident who's published groundbreaking research, who patients request by name, who other doctors come to for consults." She smiled. "And who happens to be developing a revolutionary treatment protocol for rare cancers." "The protocol is still experimental," I protested. "We don't even have funding." "We will." She pulled out her phone. "Remember James Wilson? The patient you saved last year?" Of course I remembered. James Wilson, tech billionaire, had come to us with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. Everyone else had given up, but I'd fought for him, developed a new treatment approach that had saved his life. "He's been asking how he can repay us," Dr. Chin continued. "I think funding your research program, and your surgery, would be a good start." 2 days later, I sat in James Wilson's private office, explaining my research and treatment protocol. He listened intently, occasionally glancing at the medical file in front of him. My medical file. "So this experimental surgery," he said finally, "it's the same procedure you developed for cases like mine?" I nodded. "Yes, but insurance won't cover it because—" He held up his hand. "Dr. Reynolds, you saved my life when every other doctor had given up. Now it's my turn to save yours." He pulled out a checkbook. "How much?" "Mr. Wilson, I couldn't possibly—" "How much?" he repeated firmly. $175,000 for the surgery," I whispered. And the research program needs about $5 million to get started." He wrote the check without hesitation. "Consider it done." On one condition. What condition? You accept the chief of oncology position when Sarah retires. And you use that position to help other patients like us, the ones everyone else has given up on. I stared at the check in my hands, tears blurring the zeros. I don't know what to say. Say you'll live, he smiled. And say you'll build something extraordinary. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. I didn't tell my parents. They were too busy attending Andrew's country club events. Dr. Chen supervised the procedure herself, using the very protocol I'd developed. Recovery was hard, but I threw myself into work as soon as I could. The research program flourished under James's funding. We developed new treatments, saved lives others had declared unsavable, published papers that changed the field of oncology. 6 months later, Dr. Chen announced her retirement. The board's vote for her replacement was unanimous. At 30, I became the youngest chief of oncology in the hospital's history. My protocol was being adopted by major cancer centers worldwide. The research program had grown into an entire institute, with James's continued support. My parents remained oblivious to all of it. They were too focused on Andrew's latest venture, some blockchain real estate platform that was guaranteed to make millions. When Mom called, it was only to brag about his latest deal or ask if I'd finally met a suitable doctor to marry. I let them think I was still just a resident working long hours for little pay. Let them believe their daughter was struggling while their son soared. Then came the day everything changed. My assistant burst into my office looking concerned. Dr. Reynolds? Your brother's in the ER. And your parents are demanding to speak to the chief of oncology. I stood outside the ER consultation room, watching through the window as my parents hovered over Andrew's hospital bed. He looked small somehow, his usually perfect golf tan now sallow against the white sheets. The preliminary tests had confirmed my worst fear, the same rare cancer that had nearly killed me 2 years ago. The chief of oncology is here, I heard a nurse announce. My mother spun around, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Finally, do you know who we are? My son needs the best care possible. We're prepared to pay anything. I stepped into the room, my white coat crisp, my chief of oncology badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The silence was absolute. Emily. My father's voice cracked. What are you? Why are you? Dr. Reynolds. I corrected him professionally. Chief of Oncology at Metropolitan Hospital. Now, shall we discuss your son's diagnosis? My mother's knees gave out and she sank into a nearby chair. Andrew stared at me from his bed, his face a mixture of shock and something else. Fear maybe. Or shame. This is Andrew Morrison, age 35. I read from his chart, keeping my voice clinical. Presenting with symptoms consistent with pancreatic neuroendocrine tumor, the same type I developed 2 years ago. The type you couldn't help pay to treat. But you're just a resident, Mom stammered. I was a resident when I needed life-saving surgery. The surgery you decided was less important than Andrew's country club membership. I met her eyes steadily. I'm chief of oncology now. Have been for the past year. Dad stepped forward, his face ashen. Princess, we didn't know. No, you didn't. You never asked. Too busy attending Andrew's golf tournaments to notice I was developing treatments that are now used worldwide. Too focused on his real estate schemes to see I was building something that actually saves lives. Andrew shifted uncomfortably in his bed. Sis, about that country club thing. The good news, I continued, ignoring him, is that I specialize in exactly this type of cancer. In fact, I developed the protocol that's now the standard of care. The protocol that saved my life, no thanks to any of you. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We'll pay anything. Whatever it costs. That's the interesting part, I said, flipping through Andrew's admission papers. It seems your insurance won't cover the treatment. It's still considered experimental by some providers. The cost will be approximately $300,000. The color drained from my father's face. $300,000? Don't worry, I smiled without warmth. Unlike some people, I don't put golf memberships ahead of saving lives. I pulled out the treatment authorization forms and handed them to my stunned parents. As they read through the documents, I saw the moment they reached the part about my research institute, about the worldwide adoption of my protocol, about the millions in funding we'd received. All this time. Mom whispered. All your success. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have listened? Or would you have tried to take credit for it like you do with Andrew's ventures? I gestured to the forms. Sign where indicated. Andrew's first treatment begins in an hour. Emily, Andrew spoke up, his voice small. I'm sorry about before. About the money, about everything. I looked at my brother, really looked at him for the first time in years. The golden child who could do no wrong, now lying in a hospital bed, needing the very treatment our parents had denied me. I'm not doing this for you, I said quietly. I'm doing it because I took an oath to help people. Even people who wouldn't help me. As I turned to leave, my father caught my arm. Wait, how did you afford your surgery? How did you become all this? Someone believed in me. Someone who saw my value wasn't in country club connections or real estate deals, but in the lives I could save. I gently removed his hand. James Wilson, the billionaire whose life I saved. He funded my surgery, my research, my entire institute. He saw what you couldn't, that investing in saving lives is worth more than any golf membership. The next few weeks were a blur of treatments and family revelations. My parents practically lived at the hospital, watching in awe as I led team meetings, performed procedures, made decisions that determined life and death. They saw the respect I commanded, the lives I touched, the difference I made. They heard nurses and doctors speak of my achievements, of the Reynolds protocol that had revolutionized cancer treatment. Andrew's treatment was successful, though recovery would take months. One evening, as he was finally strong enough to sit up and really talk, he asked the question I'd been waiting for. How did you do it, Em? How did you build all this while I was being the favorite? I finished for him. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you stop trying to please people who'll never really see you. My mother overheard this conversation. Later that night, she tried to apologize. We were wrong, she said, watching me update Andrew's charts. About everything. About you. Yes, you were. I didn't look up from my work. But this isn't about revenge, Mom. It's about showing you that success isn't always measured in golf club memberships and real estate deals. Your father and we'd like to contribute to your research institute. To make up for not helping with your surgery. I finally met her eyes. The institute doesn't need your money. We have more funding than we can spend, actually. What I needed was your support, your belief in me. 2 years ago when I was dying. She flinched at the word, dying. But you know what? I continued. Not having that support taught me something valuable. Taught me to believe in myself. To build something meaningful, not just profitable. When Andrew was discharged, my parents tried to throw a celebration dinner. They invited their country club friends, prepared to boast about their daughter, the chief of oncology. I declined. I have surgeries scheduled, I told them. Lives to save. But feel free to play golf. The night they finally left the hospital, I sat in my office looking at an old photo of me at my medical school graduation, standing alone because my family was at one of Andrew's golf tournaments. Next to it, I placed a newer image. Me accepting the National Medical Achievement Award, James Wilson standing proudly beside me like the father mine had never been. My assistant knocked softly. Dr. Reynolds? Your parents are in the lobby. They want to know if you'll reconsider coming to dinner. Tell them I'm in surgery, I replied. Saving someone else's child. Months passed. Andrew recovered fully and returned to his real estate business, though with noticeably less swagger. My parents tried repeatedly to insert themselves into my success, to claim some credit for the doctor I'd become. I maintained professional courtesy but kept my distance. Some wounds, I'd learned, don't heal just because the people who inflicted them finally recognize their mistake. The institute continued to grow. We saved more lives, developed more treatments, pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Every success was a quiet vindication, every saved patient a reminder that I'd chosen the right path. 1 year after Andrew's treatment, I received a letter from my father. Inside was a check for exactly $175,000. The cost of your surgery, his note read. I know it's too late and you don't need it now. But I need you to know I understand what we did. What we lost. I donated the money to the hospital's patient assistance fund, earmarked for families who had to choose between saving lives and paying country club dues. Sometimes success isn't about proving them wrong. Sometimes it's about proving yourself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't in making them regret their choices, but in showing them a better way to choose. Every morning I put on my white coat and walk through the hospital halls, past the plaques bearing my name, past the lives I've helped save. And every morning, I remember that scared resident who nearly died because golf was more important than her life. She didn't die. She became something more powerful than they could imagine. Not just a doctor but a healer. Not just a success but a savior. And that's worth more than any country club membership.